Hello, everyone. I'm Jason Bittner from Triple Helix Corporation, and welcome to our Helix Insider podcast. I'm joined in studio today with my two senior developers, Andy Webster and Sam Sheldon. Hey, guys, how are you doing today?
Hey.
Hey.
We got a very special podcast for you guys today. Triple Helix in 2024 is celebrating its 20th year in business. We started the company in 2004, and coincidentally, this is our 20th podcast. And so we thought, hey, why not bring the two together and give you a special episode? What we wanted to talk to you guys today was about how Triple Helix started, where we came from, what we did in the beginning, and after 20 years, where we are now and where we're going. So, just for me, a brief intro, I founded the company in 2004. And, when we first started Triple Helix 20 years ago, it was a very different technical landscape back then. The technologies that we all take for granted today were not quite as prevalent. And we actually started as just a regular, simple, traditional web design house. We were doing the static websites for folks, making their marketing sites for the companies, and very, very humble beginnings. And what we found over time, with around 2008, 2008, 9 timeframe, is that Yahoo Site Builder came out where you could buy and host your own websites for $8.95 a month. And let me tell you, if your companies are realizing they can just do their own websites for that little amount, it became very difficult to sell traditional professional website design services. And, at that point, Triple Helix was at a crossroads. Do we try to keep working against a commoditized offering, or should we try to do something different? And it was that point I realized Triple Helix really needed to live up to the name of what Triple Helix meant. If the metaphor for Triple Helix is that Triple Helix is if you think of companies and their business data, and the DNA of a company is its business data, then Triple Helix adds the third strand of DNA to make those companies more intelligent. And for us, it was like pivoting away from websites into web applications, where it was more about the data for the company that really mattered more than what the websites and the forward-facing marketing sites were doing. So with that, we had our very first, what I would call genesis of our web applications, where we had a company that was doing engineered services, and they were actually getting hammered on the phones by their customers asking when their orders were going to be ready. And they actually had that data internally on a Microsoft Access database, but nobody knew that, what the status was. And we just decided to take their forward-facing website, the marketing website, and we allowed the data to be uploaded 6 times a day from access to the new website. And voila, they were able to log in and find the status of their orders, and the call volume dropped over 90% in like overnight. And for us, that was a real key milestone in that now these websites were intelligent. Now we were able to provide and give some real value to these companies beyond just a fancy, pretty static website. So Sam and Andy have actually joined me on my journey. They're actually my longest running employees at Triple Helix, and they represent basically the evolution of where we started and where we're coming to, in that instead of websites being static, now they're intelligent. And, over the years, it's been a good 20-year journey. Frameworks that we use to write applications that run these websites have evolved considerably. Even in the last 5 years alone, we've seen some tremendous, tremendous changes. And I would say the success of Triple Helix is really bound on the fact that instead of just static websites, we've run web applications, and the frameworks that those applications are built off of really, really changed the landscape of what we can do. Andy and Sam, I'll turn to you and ask, what can you talk and tell our listeners about is the evolution of these frameworks, where we started about 5, 6 years ago as to where we are now.
Yeah, I can start with like when I started here, we were pivoted to a framework called Yi, which is a good framework. It's just it was really good for getting things up and going quickly. It had a really good built-in like tabular data kind of sorting view. Um, Honestly, there was only a couple of problems that we had with that, which is why we pivoted later. But overall, much better than just using like a home baked framework, which we had been kind of using some kind of homegrown ones prior to that. But then we pivoted to Yi for a while, and that kind of makes it so you can stand up an application really quickly. It handles a lot of the gnarly wiring stuff that you would have to waste time on otherwise. and then we transitioned into Laravel in the past. What was it? Was it 2 or 3 years ago, Sam? Something like that.
It would have been about the same time that I came on, which I think would have been 2019. So it's been almost 5 years. We've been using Laravel for a while.
Okay, so that's wow, it's 5 years. Yeah, and then transitioned into Laravel, which is great because it's kind of a lot more open. Whereas when we were starting off with Yi, it's a great framework, but it also, if you need to do specific kind of edits to the way the whole basic framework works, then you'd have to go through a little more effort to make it work the way you want it to. Whereas Laravel is more like an engine that you can operate on easily. Not like, yeah, I'm making car analogies now, but
Every time you talk about programming, there's got to be at least one bad car analogy. It's required.
Sam, your experience with the frameworks and where we've been and where we are now.
Yeah, so I came on, I think around the time we were phasing out Yi because it was no longer getting updated. I know there was at the time we used Yi 2. At the time there was talk of Yi 3, but that was years ago, and there's been no further talk of it really. So I think it's been pretty well supplanted. But yeah, we've been using Laravel pretty much since I came on. I think since version 6, and we're coming up on version 11 in just a couple days now. But yeah, it's definitely nice to have that just bedrock layer of here's all the database interactions, URL management, things like that. A whole bunch of stuff that we just don't have to think about when we work on things. We don't have to worry about, oh shoot, what kind of database is this? How am I supposed to interact with it? It handles all that. And on top of Laravel, we use we also add other frameworks like Tailwind CSS to make our front ends look pretty and polished and standardized. We use Livewire, which is another thing added on top of Laravel that basically lets us do all of the, responsive web design. The other good thing about frameworks is that there's a ton of stuff you can add that's designed for that framework, and it's all just seamless. There's packages for charts, for tables, for all kinds of things. And while you do need some programming knowledge to be able to use them effectively, it's a whole lot easier than having to roll it yourself, and it saves us a lot of time and effort.
yeah, absolutely. And another thing that was a great change from Yi to Laravel is Laravel has a much larger space for that. Like there's a lot more. You'd call them third-party packages, but um, like for example, things like Twilio or Shopify, like things like that usually will have like some kind of an add-on for Laravel if it's because it is a bigger framework, and also in that, when we bring new people in, we a lot of times people will have had experience in Laravel because it is a bigger package, so it makes it just easier all around to kind of smooth out our development process.
No, that's an excellent point. And, just for that purpose of explaining the frameworks and what they really help us do is, imagine if you were a builder for, like I say, a residential home, and the framework represents the foundation and the initial walls, and they're already pre-packaged and done. So before you're even actually building the house, you start with really most of the major components of a software application are already completed for you. And they what you typically do with leveraging the framework is you actually put the insides of the house together, the walls, the treatments, the counters, the furniture, and whatnot, using, and in this metaphor, that's the business logic, what the actual application needs to do. And the framework is helping you build that. So the time it takes to do a custom software project, where in the initial days you were doing everything from scratch every time, now you do it in fractions of the time, and because it's all built for you and the helpers are actually built in to actually add those components, it makes it so much easier. One thing I did want to mention is that these frameworks are very good for two things. One, we can augment systems, which if you're a manufacturing space, the enterprise resource planning software systems that these companies use to run their whole companies, they're not perfect. And so many times they can't get functionality they want. These frameworks are perfect for bolting onto and actually extending functionality. And we typically call these things in parlance reporting layers. Being able to extend functionality, reporting is usually a very big part of that. But what's also nice about these frameworks is they can stand alone all by themselves. And because they're that powerful, you can actually use them as a replacement or as an alternative to an ERP system, particularly if clients aren't ready for a full up ERP, they want to grow with the solution. You can start small and build up with this. And Andy and Sam, I know you've had experience with doing both. We've actually built applications where they bolted on and they were reporting layer-esque, or you have applications where it was the only application and it does everything for the company. Talk to our listeners a little bit about the experience and what's the difference with both.
Yeah, so a lot of the first things I worked on, as I think a lot of us had, are reporting portals. I think the first one that I worked on, I don't know that we tracked anything other than user logins on our side. And the nice thing about using a framework for it was I could just say, okay, I want to connect to the ERP database. And then I could just go query everything from there, pull it in, nice and simple, just display things in tables, sort them, filter them, all that good stuff. But yeah, and I think Andy, you're the one who was in charge of I think the biggest ERP replacement thing that we did that was basically an access database.
Oh gosh, yeah. That was yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that one we took like a we took an access database and extracted all the data from it and then converted it into a new application. And so in that, we had to change some things, but overall, very successful. Because access databases, as they grow larger and larger, they don't become very efficient, and they slow down, and they start to just bog up people's systems, and the file gets bigger and bigger. And so, in that case, we bolted it into a new an application with a MySQL database running in the background, so it's much faster and much more customizable in that, and also it's central, so you don't have like copies of the same database all over the place. There's one database in one spot, and so that was a big improvement for them.
No, that's actually a really good point. I'm very familiar with that project. What we refer to is when we take an Access database and we actually convert it to a full up web application is called the digital lift. It allows us to transform how the company is doing business with Access databases. You're not wrong about how big and convoluted they get, but they also self-corrupt over time to the point where you could actually lose the entire application, which has happened. So when we do these digital lifts, which is a full up web application entirely, it becomes, in this company's example, their ERP system. It lets them run the entire company. And what's really, really cool about this is you get them what we call a phased approach. We get through a phase 1 application, their phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, everything they build onto it after the fact just gets so much better for them because they realize that they can literally have a blank canvas of functionality. In fact, this particular account is actually going into a phase 2 with us right now, and they're completely transforming the workflow. They're going to have full visibility to service text in the field. This is a service business, but moreover, they're going to have ultimate visibility to what everyone's doing, and the techs have visibility to communicate now, whereas before they rely on cell phones and paper, literally sent through the mail to communicate. So this is going to be a very important upgrade for them, all facilitated by these frameworks. So, going from websites to frameworks and to, all the evolution of things, before we pan out, I'd just love to get both of your feedback on like, where do we go next? We've talked at great lengths about where we are now, but what do you think is going to happen for us in the future? AI and all that kind of space, how is that going to transform what we do now into the future?
I can't really speak to AI. That's pretty well outside of my wheelhouse. I know there's a lot of things that we could do with it. I'm not 100% sure it's there yet. AI is really powerful, but also really unreliable right now. That said, I know that as we've been, looking to improve how we make web apps. We've been talking about moving into JavaScript frameworks rather than PHP so that we have websites that are more responsive and snappier, things that maybe could work on mobile. I know we've used JavaScript frameworks to make mobile applications before, and I could see us moving into web applications that have more mobile components for some of our clients. I could see that working well. I know that's the big thing that I've been looking at for our evolution, but Andy, I know you've looked a little bit more into AI than I have.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I mean, I've used it for some simple things. I I would never put any kind of data in there because it's harvested and it's brought up into some place where they analyze it and whatnot. But for simple things like make me set me up an HTML structure for blah blah blah, and then it kind of sets you up a basic framework. You could say like set me up an HTML table with 30 columns that's auto spacing using Tailwind or something like that, and it might be able to do that and kind of write otherwise semi-monotonous code for you. But it's not there yet, like you said. What the piece that you were referring to with JavaScript frameworks, I think that is kind of a direction that we're moving towards. Not that we would ever totally abandon like backend kind of server based stuff, because that is good and solid and stable. But like for a front end user experience, it makes things feel a lot more like it's happening in real time versus you click the button and then you wait and then you see something happening. It makes things snappier for the front end user experience, which is good. And also, JavaScript runs on a lot of different stuff, a lot of different mobile applications, so it's flexible in that sense.
And it isn't as if we don't use JavaScript. We use that pretty regularly. That's a component of Livewire. We've always used it, but a JavaScript framework is more heavily like building it into our application as a core part rather than just utilizing it for specific discrete things.
No, absolutely. From my own perspective, looking at, where we are and where we're going, the frameworks I think are going to continue to evolve and get easier and easier for us to use. Andy, I think you're spot on with AI for us, at least in the short term, being able to give us things that are more repetitive or more monotonous, having the AI generate code for us. But, we are going to get to a point where we are actually going to be able to ask the AI to generate the application for us and being able to use the tools to make us more efficient and make the workflow and obviously the end product that much better for the client, because we can focus on the things that AI can't do, which is always what AI and automation is intended to do. But having said that, just to recap, again, Triple Helix, 20 years in business, and, it's been quite a journey. And I really want to thank all of the people that got me here and got us here, great employees like Sam and Andy, as well as our great partners and customers who, I never expected to see where Triple Helix is today back at the beginning. I don't think anyone can actually say that, but I can honestly say we got here because of all of the support of our customers and our partners and our people. They are really the success of Triple Helix. So for me, to everyone who has supported us on our journey, thank you. We couldn't have gotten here without you. And for today, I just want to take a special thanks to my two partners here in studio, Andy and Sam, for they are our senior developers. They are, among many of our other employees, they are the heart of Triple Helix. That's what makes this company so great. And so thank you both for being on the podcast with me, and thank you for being with us on this journey. And so that's all our time for today. So if you like what you heard and you want to hear more of it, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe down on the channel below. And until next time, this has been Jason Bittner from Triple Helix on the Helix Insider Podcast. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.